Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Muy buenas tardes, bienvenidos a las plataformas de Radio Liberación Evangélica, llegando usted a través de cualquier receptor, a través de su teléfono o cualquier receptor que nos acompañe en este momento. Le invitamos para que siga ayudándonos a difundir la palabra, comunicarle a todas sus amistades donde quiera que nos acompañen. Amigos de Estados Unidos, gracias por acompañarnos. Amigos de California, amigos de Houston, Las Vegas, amigos de Texas, amigos de North Carolina, Sur Carolina, Nebraska, Tennessee, amigos de lo que conforma todo lo que es la Unión Americana, un saludo muy especial a través de Radio Liberación Evangélica. Amigos de San Francisco, gracias por acompañarnos. Sacramento, amigos que nos acompañan en San Diego, sur de California, gracias por acompañarnos. Amigos localmente en lo que conforma Pandel, Lancaster, Rosemont, Tehachapi, Mojave, Ridgecrest, Trona, California City, amigos de Quartz Hill, Lake Los Ángeles, amigos que nos acompañan en Acton, Santa Clarita, Valencia, gracias por acompañarnos. Recuerde que somos Ministerio Radio Liberación Evangélica, llegando a usted a través de estas plataformas a todo el mundo. Amigos de México, gracias por acompañarnos, por estar con nosotros. Amigos de Sonora, gracias. Amigos de Baja California Norte, Sur. Amigos de Sinaloa, gracias por acompañarnos. Amigos de Nayarit, Colima. Amigos de Michoacán, gracias por tu compañía. Amigos de Jalisco, todo lo que conforma la zona del Pacífico, un saludo muy especial de Radio Liberación Evangélica. Amigos que nos acompañan al centro de la República Mexicana, amigos de México, de Cuernavaca, San Luis Potosí, Zacatecas, Coahuila, Durango, Monterrey, Tamaulipas, Veracruz, Chiapas, Mérida, Yucatán, gracias por acompañarnos y ayudarnos a difundir esto que es de ustedes, la plataforma de Radio Liberación Evangélica. Amigos de Belice, gracias por acompañarnos. Hay mucha gente de Belice que sigue la plataforma. Gracias, amigos de Belice. Amigos de Guatemala, tenemos mucha gente en Guatemala que nos acompaña también. Le damos la bienvenida, amigo guatemalteco, gracias. Amigos hondureños también, que hay mucha gente de Honduras, de Nicaragua. Amigos de Panamá, amigos de Costa Rica también. Todo lo que conforma República Dominicana, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Haití, gracias por acompañarnos. Todo lo que conforma Islas del Caribe, Islas Margaritas. Un saludo también para Venezuela, Colombia. El saludo también para Chile, Belice, Argentina, Bolivia, Ecuador. Gracias por acompañarnos. Le damos la bienvenida. Y precisamente recuerde, mañana estaremos en una vigilia a nivel online a través de todo el mundo, a través de Radio Liberación Evangélica. Le damos la bienvenida y le invitamos para que siga acompañándonos. Gracias por hacerlo, gracias por estar con nosotros y por ayudarnos en verdad a difundir la palabra en esta gran comisión de ir, predicar el Evangelio y darlo a conocer a todo el mundo. Marco, pon el.
Gran Vigilia en línea. Gran Vigilia en línea. Radio Liberación Evangélica le invita atentamente a que se una a esta vigilia. Hagamos los cambios que este mundo necesita, buscando, rogando implorando la guianza de nuestro Dios. Este próximo sábado 27, desde las 4 p.m. a 1 a.m. Le invitamos a participar y a ser muy bendecido. No se olvide, la cita es este sábado 27 de 4 p.m. a 1 a.m. Radio Liberación Evangélica.
Hello, and welcome to, another day in life. Today, I'm going to be sharing the Word of God with all of you. Today I'm going to be covering, the many words of wisdom written in the Bible. There are many books in the Bible that tell an interesting story, that make us question why are we here, and how did everything begin? And there are other sections that are just confusing. Today we're going to be covering some words of wisdom and some words of praise found in the Bible. Today we're going to be covering Ecclesiastes and the Song of Songs. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's begin. Ecclesiastes, when life seems senseless. The wisest man who ever lived takes on the hardest question of all. Who wouldn't want to know what happens? The wise guy is Solomon. At least that's who the writer strongly hints that he is. Solomon was the Israelite king who was wiser than everyone who has ever lived or will ever live. 1 Kings 3:12. The tough question he tackles is, what's the point of life? Why are we humans here? Ecclesiastes sounds a bit like a lab experiment in logic, with all the tests taking place in the writer's mind. In one experiment after another, he searches for the meaning of life. He looks in all
del Hijo de Dios, puedo imaginarme una eternidad para siempre. Solo va a adorar, puedo imaginarme. Oh, solo imaginarme. Rodeado de tu gloria, que sentirá mi ser, danzaré por ti, mi Cristo, o en silencio quedaré, estaré de pie en tu gloria.
And life goes on without us, as though we never existed. That said, he reaches a surprising conclusion. Instead of urging us to eat, drink, and party like there's no tomorrow, he suggests that we live in a way that would express gratitude to the one who gave us life. Honor God, he said, and do what he tells you. Ecclesiastes 12:13. The main point of the book of Ecclesiastes. I thought deeply about all that goes on here under the sun, and now is my conclusion. Fear God and obey his commands. Ecclesiastes 8:9 and 12:13. Now, who is the writer of this book? As we covered earlier, these are the words of the teacher, King David's son, who ruled in Jerusalem. Ecclesiastes 1:1. That suggests that it's Solomon. So do other clues. The writer is wise, has lots of wives, and talks about receiving treasures from foreign leaders. But many Bible experts say his choice of certain Hebrew words sound like they're coming from 400 to 600 years after Solomon's time. The disconnect would be a bit like Romeo catching sight of Juliet in the distant moonlight and declaring, "Did my heart love till now?" Forswear it, sight. She's a bad mama jump. What the... No. Perhaps an editor revised Solomon's original work. Some Bible experts speculate. The way Bible translators have updated the 400-year-old Shakespearean English of the King James Version. Or maybe someone else wrote the book, giving Solomon the credit. The reverse of plagiarism. This was a common way of honoring someone in ancient times. Many students of the Bible, however, prefer the traditional position that Solomon wrote this book. They argue that translating ancient words is a tricky business, especially since the Jews used shorthand, skipping the vowels. Even with vowels, many given Hebrew words could have a variety of meanings. Date. If Solomon wrote it, he did so in the 900s BC, and the location is in Israel. What's the point of living? God has dealt a tragic existence to the human race. I observed everything going on under the sun, and really, it is all meaningless, like chasing the wind. Ecclesiastes 1:13-14. The teacher identifies himself as a longtime student of wisdom, a sage. In fact, his book fits the genre called wisdom literature, like the books of Job and Proverbs. Books like these can offer fast food brain nuggets of practical insight, condensed to no longer than the science we find inside of a fortune cookie. Or they can serve up a banquet, I don't know how to say that word, a banquet of profound insight, in the form of stories or poetic essays. Ecclesiastes does all of this in an attempt to find meaning in life. But as wise as the teacher is, he finds no meaning. People just don't make a difference in the long scope of history. Generations come and generations go, but the earth never changes. Ecclesiastes 1:4. If the writer were alive today, he might change this a bit. Given the environmental catastrophes that humanity seems to be spawning these days, the teacher might complain that our only enduring quality is to make things worse, to exploit God's creation instead of taking care of it. Yep, I completely agree with that. For some bewildering reason, the teacher says, we are born. We live our moment in the sun, then we're gone, leaving behind not so much as a shadow. The sun doesn't even notice we're missing. It just goes on rising and setting each day, while the wind keeps blowing and the rivers rush onto the ocean. People may remember us for a time, but before long even that is lost. We don't remember what happened in the past, and in future generations, no one will remember what we are doing now. Ecclesiastes 1:11. Even the teacher's own mission in life, to learn as much as he can about everything, is as foolish as chasing the wind. The faster he runs, the faster the wind blows. The more questions he answers, the more questions those answers raise. And in frustration he laments, the greater my wisdom, the greater my grief. Ecclesiastes 1:18. Where Ecclesiastes gets his name. If we gave this book an English title, it might be The Teaching. But we don't. We hang on to the Greek title, Ecclesiastes. That's odd because the book wasn't written in Greek. It was written in Hebrew. The Hebrew word is Koheleth. That's what the writer calls himself, Koheleth. Unfortunately, no one is certain what Koheleth means. The root word kohel means to assemble, so scholars often guess that Koheleth means the assembler, as in someone who assembles knowledge or assembles a class of students. That's why most modern Bible versions translate Koheleth as the teacher. About 200 years before Christ, Greek-speaking Jews translated their sacred Hebrew writings into Greek, the main language of the day. Koheleth became Ecclesiastes, the Greek word for the one of the assembly. When Christian scholars started translating the Bible into other languages, such as the Roman Empire's preferred language of Latin, they decided to keep the Greek word as the title. Work is a waste. What do you get from a life of hard labor? You hand over what you worked for to someone. Read that again. What do you get from a life of hard labor? You hand over what you worked for to someone who never lifted a finger for it. Ecclesiastes 2:22 and 21. Shouldn't that be 20? Whatever. Of the many experiments the teacher conducts, 3 focus on trying to find meaning in work, wealth, and pleasure. They're all a bust. Work. I came to hate all my work here on earth, for I must leave to others everything I have earned. Ecclesiastes 2:18. Wealth. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. The more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. So what good is wealth, except perhaps to watch it slip through your fingers? Ecclesiastes 5:10-11. Pleasure. I denied myself no pleasure, the teacher says. He built huge homes with gardens and parks. He married many beautiful women. He bought slaves to take care of his family and his vast herds. He hired musicians to entertain him. He says, I had everything a man could desire, Ecclesiastes 2:8. Yet he sees no lasting value to it. What good does it do to seek pleasure, Ecclesiastes 2:2. The teacher makes a judgment call. Even though work, wealth, and pleasure are meaningless, as far as he can tell, that doesn't mean we should cut them out of our lives. He advises just the opposite. The best thing we can do is enjoy eating, drinking, and working. I believe these are God's gifts to us. Ecclesiastes 2:24. He trusts God more than he trusts his understanding. He sounds like the sage who offered this advice. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Proverbs 3:5. If he is not the wise Solomon, he is at least an incredibly insightful and godly sage. Seasons of life. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die. Ecclesiastes 3:1-2. In one of the most famous poems of the Bible, the teacher describes some of life's most notable experiences, and he does it in a way that points to God, showing that God is in control of our destiny. God sets the timeline of our lives. Count the verses describing the seasons. It's no coincidence that there are 7. In the Bible, 7 is the perfect number. It symbolizes completion. This symbolism goes back to creation. On day 7, God's work was finished and he rested. And on the 7th day of the week, the Sabbath, God's people rest. Everything we need to do, work and rest, takes place in 7 days of the week. All of life's experiences are summed up in these 7 verses, with each verse covering one extreme to the other. The first line of each verse describes the experience, and the second line repeats the idea, either by saying it in another way or contrasting it with the flip side of the coin. That's a trait of Hebrew poetry. Lines don't rhyme. Instead, they repeat. Repeating sounds. They even repeat ideas. No rhyme, just plenty of reason. In life's 7 basic seasons, there are time to be born and to die, to kill and to heal, to cry and to laugh, to hug and to push away, to find something and to lose something, to tear and to mend, and to love and to hate. We might be in control of how we respond to life's situations, but the timing of the events is beyond our control. Another poet put it this way in a prayer to God. My times are in your hands, Psalm 31:15. It's striking to read it this way. What makes it so jarring is this. Though our time is in God's hand, or in God's hands, eternity is in our hearts. God has planted eternity into the human heart, Ecclesiastes 3:11. Bible experts debate what that means, but one idea is that we have a sense of eternity. We know it's there, we want it, and we want to know how our life fits into the eternal scheme of things. But the sage says we can't see that far. People cannot see the whole scope of God's work. Yet, one more time, the teacher has a suggestion. He repeats something he said earlier, in 2:24. Just like me repeating every single thing I say because I stutter and don't think when I speak. I concluded there is nothing better than to be happy and enjoy ourselves as long as we can. As long as we can. And people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor. For these are gifts from God. Ecclesiastes 3:11-13. We can't begin to understand the seasons of life and why things happen when they do, but we can enjoy the good times when they come. A barmaid's advice in the Bible? Chunk of a legend, one of many surviving copies of an ancient adventure story, the Epic of Gilgamesh. This fragment was found in Israel. It was copied into clay about 400 years before Solomon. The writer of Ecclesiastes, possibly Solomon, seems to borrow some advice from this story. One snippet of the advice from the wise teacher of Ecclesiastes, who is traditionally considered to be Solomon, seems incredibly similar to some advice of an ancient Iraqi hero got from a barmaid. The hero was Gilgamesh. He's a king thought to have lived more than 2,000 years before Solomon in what is now Iraq. His story is called the Epic of Gilgamesh, and most of this story was found on a dozen clay tablets in the ruins of an Assyrian king's library in Nineveh. That's near modern-day Mosul in northern Iraq. As the story goes, Gilgamesh was on a quest for the secret of immortality. The barmaid was Siduri. Here's part of her advice, alongside similar advice in the Bible. Be happy and enjoy eating and drinking. Verse 7 of Ecclesiastes 9. Epic of Gilgamesh, Tablet 10, author's paraphrase. Fill your belly, enjoy yourself day and night, eating, dancing, playing. Dress up, comb your hair, and look your best. Verse 8. Take a bath, wash your hair, and wear sparkling fresh clothes. You love your wife, so enjoy being with her. Verse 9. Let your wife enjoy being with you. This is what you are supposed to... This is what you are supposed to do as you struggle through this life on this earth. Verse 9. This is what people are supposed to do. Similarities. Song of Songs. Oh, no. We're talking about that book. Yes. It's usually sadly overlooked, like many other books in the Bible. The wisdom literature by itself is mainly all ignored. Maybe like Psalms and Job are like the only ones that aren't ignored. Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs are usually thrown out in the bin. They're rarely talked about, and it's honestly very unfortunate because they have incredible lessons and incredible verses, just like every single other thing in the Bible. Everything in the Bible has a type of message. Everything has a message that can help you in your life, and that's mainly what these books are about. Job shows us that it's better. Job shows us how we're supposed to trust in God through all the hardships. Psalms are praises to God and questions about reality. Proverbs, they're wisdom literature, just like everything else, but they're mainly focused on wisdom. They tell you wise things on how to live your life. Ecclesiastes shows us that, life is meaningless, supposedly. Life is meaningless, but there's always a time for everything, and we must enjoy what we have before it's gone. But what does Song of Songs teach us? Let's cover that right now. Song of Songs, love talk. What is a song about sex with no mention of God doing in the Bible? That's a question that people of faith, Jews and Christians alike, have been asking for more than 2,000 years. Most believers in ancient times couldn't handle what many scholars today insist is the truth about this book. And the truth is that it's an erotic celebration of love between a man and a woman who graphically praise each other, praise the physical features of each other, and trade fantasies about making love. I'm like an 11-year-old child. I don't even think I should be talking about this, but here we are. So, though their words aren't obscene, they are unapologetically sensual. Too sensual, it seems, for most believers until the 1800s. Until then, most read the book as an allegory. They thought the symbolic meaning was more important than the literal meaning. For many Jews, the song was a symbol of God's love for Israel. The man in the story is God, the woman is Israel. The bedroom is the land now called Israel. The kissing is God giving Israel the laws they're to follow, and the woman's confession of having black skin is Israel's confession of sin. Wait, what? That sounds racist. Is Israel's confession of sin, worshipping idols. Christians did much the same thing, with the man usually representing Jesus. Even John Wesley, a preacher in the late 1700s, who became the father of the Methodist Church, insisted that the song could not with decency refer to a literal man and a woman. This book is to be understood allegorically concerning the spiritual love in marriage, which is between Did I just skip something? Which is between. Hold on. It didn't finish the sentence. Which is between. Yeah, whatever. The main point of this book is that love between a husband and a wife is something to celebrate and enjoy, both in words and in sexual intimacy. That's the message. So the message of all these books compiled together, I'll talk about that at the end, never mind. The writer. This is Solomon's Song of Songs, more beautiful than any other, Song of Songs 1:1. But most Bible experts say they doubt Solomon wrote this book, for several reasons. The first verse seems to act like a title, added later by an editor compiling the songs, as editors did with many psalms. In Hebrew, the byline is phrased vaguely, of Solomon. That could mean it's by him, or it's for him, perhaps for one of his weddings, or it's about him, though there's little mention of him afterward. Some of the phrasing seems to come from hundreds of years after Solomon. Many Bible experts say this book is probably a collection of poetry and love songs used in wedding celebrations. Others say a single writer wrote it, perhaps a woman. That's because the starring female character in the song speaks 61 of the 116 verses, more than the starring male character, or the minor characters. Many students of the Bible take the traditional approach, arguing that Solomon wrote the song. Among the supporting evidence, names of the cities in the song fit the time of Solomon, before the nation split in two. The writer talks about many exotic spices, plants, and jewels, which fits this era when Solomon was trading with countries throughout the Middle East and Africa. Also, this genre of writing is similar to the songs that Egyptians were writing at and before the time of Solomon. Date unknown. Solomon ruled from about 970 to 930 BC. Location: Israel. The lovers mention many locations in Israel, such as Jerusalem, the coastal place of Sharon, and Mount Hermon. Oh, that's when the message continued. All right. So, continuing with the message before, Christians did much the same thing, with the man usually representing Jesus. Even John Wesley, a preacher in the late 1700s who became the father of the Methodist Church, insisted that the song could not with decency refer to a literal man and a woman. This book is to be understood allegorically, considering the spiritual love and marriage which is between Christ and his church. Only in the 1800s did Bible experts start tiptoeing away from the allegorical interpretation. The bedroom is real, they began arguing. So is the kissing, and so are the breasts. Most Bible experts today seem to agree. This is making me sick. I should not be doing this. This kind of makes me sick. Because I'm a child, I'm not supposed to be reading this. What remains confusing is the storyline. Many don't see one. They see just a collection of love songs, a bit like the best of Johnny Mathis, but in this case, the best of King Solomon. Yet other experts see plot possibilities. Solomon picks a country girl as a bride, but she rejects him for her country boy. Solomon is the country boy, so he gets the girl after. Wait, what? Country girl falls in love with the country boy, and she sees her man as kingly, every bit as regal as Solomon. Looking good. You are so handsome, my love, pleasing beyond words. Song of Songs 116. A lovesick man and woman pummel each other with compliments. Their dialogue reads like a how-to manual for couples who don't know how to put their love into words. Dang. Compliments from the gentleman. You are beautiful, my darling, beautiful beyond words. Your eyes are like doves behind your veil. Your lips are like scarlet ribbon. Your mouth is inviting. Your breasts are like twin fawns of a gazelle grazing among the lilies. Song of Songs 4, 1, 3, and 5. Compliments from the lady. there. Compliments from the lady. His body is like bright ivory, glowing with lapis lazuli. His legs are like marble pillars set in sockets of finest gold. His posture is stately, like the noble cedars of Lebanon. His mouth is sweetness itself. He is desirable in every way. Song of Songs 5:14-16. Yikes. Here comes the groom. Look, it is Solomon's carriage. It's the most simple message. Song of Songs 3:7. The woman has what some Bible experts say is a dream, a nightmare ending in a delightful fantasy. The lady in love waits in bed for her lover, but he never comes. So she ventures out into the darkness to look for him, asking village guards if they've seen him. She eventually finds him and takes him home to the same bed where her mother conceived her. The implication is that she's going to follow her mother's example, if not by conceiving, by at least having, by at least having sex. What follows in the same chapter is a description of Solomon's wedding party storming into the village with a huge entourage, including 60 bodyguards. It's a song completely unrelated to the previous quote-unquote dream sections, some scholars say. Yet it fits nicely into at least one possible timeline. The bride-to-be dreams of making love, and here comes her groom ready to be wed. The king derives an import, a chariot crafted of wood from Lebanon. It's likely the best available builder's wood, cedar. This chariot is loaded, trimmed in gold and silver, and padded in cushions colored with the most expensive dye, purple. The king has no air conditioning and wears no deodorant because neither is available in this ancient desert nation. But he smells great, lathered in the sweet scents of imported perfume, frankincense, and myrrh. Many Bible experts say the groom isn't really Solomon. Instead, the ladies telling this part of the story are complimenting the country boy groom. He may be riding a rat-eared donkey instead of an imported chariot. His entourage may include only his family and a few goat-headed friends. And he may smell like sheep dip, but to his waiting bride, he's regal. And she couldn't love him anymore if he were the king himself. John Wesley's code, key to the song. Like most church leaders in Christianity's first 1,800 years, Methodist founder John Wesley taught that the Song of Songs was not about a couple in love, despite literally every single thing pointing towards that. Writing commentaries in the 1700s, Wesley said that the song symbolizes spiritual love between Jesus and the church. Here's part of the code key Wesley used to explain what he said the book was really talking about. It's from his commentary, John Wesley's Notes on the Song of Solomon. The Bible description: young woman 1:1, church, that's the church. Young man 1:8, that's Jesus. Kisses in 1:2, and any unusual tokens of God's love. The black skin in 1:6 is a person contemptible and deformed. Jesus. The man lying between the woman's breasts in 1:13 is a description of the church's intimate union and hearty affection to Christ. The bed in 1:16 is wherever believers enjoy sweet fellowship with Christ in more ways than one. Solomon's 60-man bodyguard 3:7 are the angels and others God uses to protect his church. Solomon's chariot and 3:7 is the word of Christ preached by ministers. The woman's lovely neck in 4:4 is faith. It unites the church with Jesus. Rationale, the Bible sometimes calls the church the body of Christ, and Jesus is the head of the church. The neck connects the body and the... Oh, that's actually a good one. Lips as sweet as nectar, 4:11. Prayer and praise, and a little sister too young to have... and a little sister too young to have breasts. In 8:8, is the big sister is the early church dominated by Jews. The little sister is the later church dominated by non-Jews called Gentiles. Oh, Lord, this book is explicit to say the least. Passion fire. The young man. You are slender like a palm tree, and your breasts are like its clusters of fruit. I will climb the palm tree and take hold of its fruit. I hate this. Song of Songs 7-8. If in fact the Song of Songs is an allegory, as most Christian scholars taught for the first 1,800 years, imagine God saying something like this to the nation of Israel, or Jesus saying this to something like this to the church. In the allegorical interpretation, that's what would be going on. This would be dialogue between God and his beloved people about the spiritual love they share for one another. But most of today's scholars say that's the wrong way to interpret the passage. It seems like it. But most of today... Wait, no, I read that already. They admit that there are allegories in the Bible. Paul creates one when he tells the Galatians that Abraham's two wives symbolize God's two covenants. Hagar, the slave wife, represented Israel's binding obligation to the Jewish laws, the Old Covenant, but Sarah, the freeborn wife, represented freedom from the Jewish laws, the New Covenant. Galatians 4:21-26. Yet, the Song of Songs, most experts today agree, is simply a celebration of love. And this celebration of love is expressed no more sensually than in the final 2 chapters of the book. Oh no. It sounds as though the couple is on their honeymoon or anticipating it with hormonally charged fiber in their bodies. After the young man compares his lady to a fruit tree and declares his intention of picking some fruit, making love, the lady responds with her eager willingness. No, God, no. I am my lover's, and he claims me as his own. Song of Songs 7:10. Not only does she say yes, she offers an idea for enhancing the pleasure. Let us get up early and go to the vineyards to see if the grapevines have budded. There I will give you my love. Song of Songs 7:12. She wants to make love outside, surrounded by the fragrance of budding flowers, and where wildflowers, pomegranates, and mandrakes, considered aphrodisiacs, give off their fragrance. Hold on, what is that aphrodisiacs? An aphrodisiac with roots that look like a human torso. The flowering mandrake was considered an aphrodisiac and a fertility enhancer. All right. Making a commitment. Always keep me in your heart and wear this bracelet to remember me by. Song of Songs 8:6. Every single child who liked friendship bracelets. That's just friendship bracelets on another level, man. This isn't just a collection of songs about a young couple who wants to make passionate love in the vineyard under an apple tree. Song of Songs 8:5. And wherever else they can find a little privacy, it certainly is that, but it's more. It's about the enduring nature of love and the power it has to sustain people even after a mate has died. And what many Bible experts say is the greatest song in this Song of Songs, the young woman assures her man that the love she has for him will never die, and she asks him to make the same commitment to her. Always keep me in your heart, she says. The passion of love bursting into flame is more powerful than death, stronger than the grave. Love cannot be drowned by oceans or floods. It cannot be bought, no matter what is offered. Song of Songs 8:6-7. Considering how explicit the book is, that's actually a pretty beautiful verse, considering every single other thing I just had to read. God is nowhere mentioned in this book. Rest in peace. But many see him in the actually, God is rarely mentioned God is mentioned in many books, but there are more than expected amount of books that don't mention God. But God is nowhere mentioned in this book. No surprise there, considering the context of this book. But many see him in the joy that love brings to this couple, and in the woman's declaration that love isn't something we can control or buy, it's a gift. And people of faith see God as the giver, for it was God who created people and told them, "Be fruitful and multiply," Genesis 1:28. This is the one and only law of God that human beings have consistently obeyed with pleasure. Dang. That just shows how messed up humanity is. Oh no, there's more. I thought I was finally gonna be free from the hellhole that was Song of Songs. But there's an Egyptian love song as well. Israel wasn't the only place in the Bible times where lovers quoted erotic poetry and sang intimate love songs to each other. I didn't expect there to be more, to be honest, but okay. Ancient love songs have been discovered throughout the ancient Middle East. Why are you looking for this? The following Egyptian song would work well in the Bible song if it weren't for references to a goddess. Just take out all the goddesses, boom, just throw it in the Bible. The song was written in the 1100 to 1200s BC, at least a century before Solomon. The writer calls his lover sister, just as the man in the Bible song does. Yikes. Sister without rival, most beautiful of all. Sister looks like the star goddess rising at the start of a good new year. Perfect and bright, shining skin, seductive in her eyes when she glances, sweet in her lips when she speaks, and never a word too many. Slender neck, shining body, her hair is true lapis, her arm gathers gold. Her fingers are like lotus flowers, ample behind, tight waist, her thighs extend her beauty, shapely in stride. When she steps on the earth, she has stolen my heart. With her embrace, she has made the neck of every man turn around at the sight of her. Whoever embraces her is happy. He is like the king of lovers. Source: Papyrus Chester Beatty 1, Song 1, Chester Beatty Library and Gallery, Dublin. Don't copyright this, please. Alright, that's the end of that. Now that we've ended on that quote-unquote bright note, let's talk about the message in all of these books. I haven't covered, at least here, I have not covered Job or Psalms or Proverbs, which I probably should do, but there's a message connected, intertwined between all of these books. From Job to Psalms to Proverbs to Ecclesiastes to Song of Songs. Yes, even Song of Songs. It's sad to admit it, but yes, there is a message in Song of Songs. That there's a connected message. It's like a connected story, but instead of a story, it's an amazing message from the Bible. Yay. But, so the message is here from the book of Job is that, even in the toughest times, we should always appreciate God and the beauty of what he's made. That moves into Psalms, where, we must appreciate the beauty of what God has made. And in Proverbs, appreciate the wisdom, we must be wise in what we do so that we can live a good, happy life where Ecclesiastes continues, in this meaningless life. We must have a good time while it lasts. And in Song of Solomon, we must endure. We must hold on to, the love of those who loves us. We must appreciate their love. And, what did that say? I completely forgot what that said. My apologies. We have to enjoy each other. We have to enjoy each other's love while it lasts in this meaningless world. So, pretty much the message all connected is that we must praise God for what he has given us in this meaningless life. We must, even in the harshest of times, we must appreciate the wisdom and the beauty of the creation and the love of people that God has, given us. And that is the message of the wisdom literature in the Bible. At least that's what I can make of it. And well, that's all I have for today. My brothers and sisters, may the Lord God bless you, and may you have a good day. God bless. Deberías haber dejado. ¿Cuál es el cable? ¿Acaso es este? Este. Aquí lo conecto.
Gran Vigilia en línea. Gran Vigilia en línea. Radio Liberación Evangélica le invita atentamente a que se una a esta vigilia. Hagamos los cambios que este mundo necesita, buscando, rogando, implorando la guianza de nuestro Dios. Este próximo sábado 27, desde las 4 p.m. a 1 a.m. Le invitamos a participar y a ser muy bendecido. No se olvide, la cita es este sábado 27 de 4 p.m. a 1 a.m. Radio Liberación Evangélica.